You are listening to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. This show is dedicated to those who live and love from the heart in infinite ways. In today's episode, we will discuss, share, gain insights, and get clarity on the wisdom and teachings of the mystic and seer Almin, as well as discover more about the miraculous healing modality called Belvaspata. Your host for this show is Paul.
Hello everyone, this is your host Paul and you are listening to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa's first episode for 2017. Today is January the 19th of 2017. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to a year of sharing, of insights, of caring, of being together and developing our awareness of creating powerful states of being and moving through the process of ascension as we exit the matrix and the dream cycles. I'm really looking forward to tonight's show because we're going to be speaking all about lords, angels. We're going to look at messages of hope from the future. We're going to talk about the drought in parts of the world. We're going to talk about clearing of the Pacific Ocean, and these are all subject matters that have come up over the last 1 or 2 weeks in Almin Diary and other sources of Almin material. First of all, to start the show off with, just a little bit of wisdom from the mystic and seer Almin, and she says, "I am my own family. Within me live the many factions of my being. All the members of my family within give me gentleness and strength, wisdom and playful joy. They give richness I would not have without them. As each is needed, they come out and bless my life with their particular contribution, dynamically expressing their gifts. The past, like a series of ghostly images, is being swallowed by this moment. The future, like waters, swirls around us, waiting to be shaped and reshaped by the moments in between." Happy New Year, everyone. Just in a week or two, we are entering the new cosmic year. Lots of new beginnings coming up, but we thought it would be a good point right now, if you haven't listened to Almin's December 31st into New Year's message and address. And it is a half hour, so we're going to be playing half an hour of our show with us to open up, and we'll see you when we come back on the other side of that.
Welcome to our New Year's Eve event, and my very, very much love, best wishes, and blessings for the coming year to my light family. My beloved ones, I want to usher the new year in by summarizing the peak at which the old year closed. Some very dramatic events happened during the last months of 2016, and it is time for us to look back and truly see what a huge accomplishment in evolution was made on the earth in the last 2 or 3 months. Why would this happen? I believe that it has something to do with that journey to the future, because suddenly a burst of light, because remember, light is access to information, a burst of light came through into our time because we traveled into the future, because we were able to prevent certain things and eliminated certain fears. Let's look at one of the big fears that we were able to deal with. The main concern in years to come, say after maybe a few hundred years, even though it begins sooner, is the overpopulation of the planet. Today we will make available to you the product of my recording of events in the future, so you have a more comprehensive picture of what I found. I took a week in August, as I had said earlier that year, to look into the far distant future, to give us hope and the glad expectation that humanity not only survived, but made the dramatic transition from Homo sapiens to Homo admirabilis, a more superior expression of humanity. The people in the future call it having additional antennas, because you are able to access so much more information about life. Consciousness is determined by how much you can access at any given moment at once. If it's a lot, you have high consciousness. So in essence, humanity will transcend to a much higher consciousness. Now this knowledge has come back to us, and we took a look at this issue of overpopulation. Yes, there will be a pinch, there will be a crunch. In fact, we will start to feel lack of certain resources in about 2030. But then again, that has to happen because people squander the resources of the earth, and they do not only take what they need, and so they deplete not only the environment but themselves. But we have understood that reality can instantaneously rewrite itself without anybody realizing that they are now in a different reality, and eliminate those people who no longer kept pace with the evolution of life. It will eliminate them, and many of you will now see how cruel certain people just stop being individuated. My beloved ones, are you going to mourn for a bucket of water in the bottom of the ocean when the bucket falls over and the water inside the bucket, which is individuation, combines with the ocean, which is infinite life? Nothing can ever really be destroyed. So if we look at this influx of light, I believe that that is the impetus for the great things that happened in the last 3 months. Let's look at them. Firstly, we received our 8th set of runes. We have previously worked with the fact that we have 8 fields that we're dealing with, and the 8th field is called the field of spiritual evolution. It's the field of Mistel. As these fields are fully lived by us, incorporated into a whole, the 8th extraordinary meridians in the body, and the 8th is the Yang Wei Mai, and it uses the alchemical oil of the secret of Nefertiti. It promotes individuation within oneness, a whole new way of relating to life. Well, the 8th set of runes is used to determine cosmic events, cosmic issues we need to solve or know, and then global issues that the cosmic issues are but a mirror of, and vice versa. So planetary issues, big things like for nations, for groups of people, like say, if you want to understand the meaning of the refugee situation. These are the types of things this 8th set of runes is for. And tonight you will or have received it as our gift to close off this new year and to wish you the ending of wonderful holidays. So the rune set is our gift to you for these holidays. So my beloved one, what else has come about? My goodness, very, very large things. First of all, we have received the very important Merkabah of resurrection. This Merkabah prepares a resurrected being to make the biggest leap of evolution life has ever made within the cosmos. That which takes it from dual matter, which is light and frequency, into incorruptible light. Incorruptible light we call the white light, but we understand that it is different from any other type of light we have ever encountered. Its composition is different. This Merkabah has a power wheel, and the power wheel, as well as 7 angel gods, assist like the carriers of a car or the wheels underneath a car that upholds the vehicle, and the vehicle being the Merkabah, to be able to make that grand shift from 3rd level resurrection over into the pure white light. Pure white light is extraordinary. It makes the one who is now made of pure white light rise beyond the aches and pains. The messages are subtle but understood. There's deeper comprehension, and we don't need the 2x4 over the head, the hard way of learning. So the other thing that it does is make you impervious to ill intent. In fact, it makes you invisible to ill intent. And the reality of the white light will be established by the angel gods. Angels, let's go there, recently have taken on a brand new function. Previously, they worked with the fluid flow of intent of the infinite, so they were in charge of the flow of intent in the form of the principles for a reality. In other words, humanity's reality has one set of principles. The God reality has another set of principles because it's a whole other reality superimposed over that of man. It basically enables the God beings in the flesh, which is you, to walk amongst humanity without getting pulled into their low-level entertainment, their low-level relationships with one another that is control-based and agenda-based. It enables you to hold a higher reality day by day. Resurrected life has a whole new reality, and we have given you a very complex alchemical equation that births the lights that come forth inside you from the 3 stages of resurrection. And that equation is available if you ask online, your brothers and sisters, or you contact our office. You may certainly have it. But it has many, many principles in it. Those are the principles that are being added up in that equation. Those are the principles of resurrected life. We are currently receiving 384 principles of high magic. Now, what has high magic got to do with creating a reality for the incorruptible white light? Well, what it has to do with it is when you live in the incorruptible white light, you are also living a life of high magic. What is high magic? Definitely different than applied magic, which we have previously encountered in, for instance, the Aruba Firina book of fairy magic and other places. High magic, you are the wand creating the magic. It moves through you and comes from you through intent and alchemical changes inside that you do with attitude, with perception, with emotion, or whatever it is that changes you inside, changes the world without, but in a very direct way. High magic is the heritage of one who has entered into the white, incorruptible light reality. So we have given you in October, when we had the super full moon, as the gift, because the super full moon is a symbol of the arrival of high magic. We gave you the first 30 principles of high magic. They are powerful and they are beautiful. Why are there 384 principles? An arbitrary number? No, as usually, very meaningful. The new year, and it's the Chinese New Year that maps the cosmic New Year exactly. The Chinese New Year begins the end of January, and brand new time maps are issued. These time maps are different than the time maps we had before. My beloved ones, I could sit here and study time maps for weeks, but roughly speaking, the following is the case. In seeing, now I haven't drawn any of it yet, but in seeing the cosmic time map for 2017, it looks different than the time maps that you were issued if you were issued the linear time maps with straight lines. It doesn't have straight lines, it has curvy, bending lines. And it has far more flow. But there is a reason for this, which we will deal with, and it has to do with the Lords of Light, a kingdom that we seldom have mentioned. And you will see why. It's almost been like a forgotten kingdom. We've left them alone, but they haven't evolved until yesterday. So we will share that with you. The time map has far more flow and less structure. Now the angels are the ones that work with the flow. The way they work with the flow has been like this. The angels bring the newness. The infinite's intent is new every millisecond. So they bring the newness of the infinite's intent like a river, like flow, to the principles that is part of a specific reality. The Lords of Light have to hold the structure of the principles, the intent of their principles. But they fight against change. So the angels and the lords have served a joint purpose, but by being opposites to one another. Well, the angels, as of very recently, were no longer opposite to the lords, because they started to embody structured flow. Structured flow would be like the wave on the ocean, except in eternal time. So it would be very much longer, it would be a year. The wave on the ocean has structure, but it is still part of the flow, and it is still being fed by the ocean. The principles they embody for realities are now like that. They're fluid structure, and the angels are embodying that in its completion. So what of the Lords of Light? And why have they been so overlooked? They have been just quietly waiting in the corner. There are trillions of Lords of Light all over the cosmos. They manifest as human bodies when they make themselves interactive with us or visible to us, which is quite rare. And otherwise, they are bright, large, perhaps 18-inch diameter spheres that sometimes show up in your picture. Mostly the spheres in the pictures are not lords. These are very bright with clear geometric shapes in them. The lords have had as a purpose, hold firm the original principle. So the angels are trying to change it as the intent changes, but they won't let it change. This friction between them has drained a lot of energy. As of yesterday, they were no longer holding the principles of existence because there's no need. The structure is within the flow, and the angels are dealing with both as one. Now, if those of you that have studied the science of alchemy, which is an online course, you will know that the alchemical potencies of light go like this. Red light tries to expand, it tries to push beyond boundaries. Its primary emotion that brings order to a red light universe, because universe is manifest in these colors, is gratitude. Then there is the blue light, and the blue light wants to pull inward towards its source. It shrinks. Its primary attitude to bring order to the blue light or to tap into its potencies is love. Then the yellow light holds firm, just like the lords were doing. So they trapped in their spheres yellow light so that they would fulfill the function of standing firm against change. The yellow light wants to hold the current situation. When this task was removed from them, they released the yellow light, and this has only just happened, and it flooded the cosmos. We now live in a yellow light cosmos. Its primary and easiest form of lifting yourself above the things of the world, of evolving, is with praise. Because the alchemical potencies of yellow light embody praise. Now, it has opened people up to praising life, God, in whatever form they see it. Praise lifts a planet up above its dharma, or its bad destiny, bad as in not so pleasant, destiny, to a higher level. So this is enormously beneficial. It also means that the planet is wiping out any traces of demonic life. And this reality is spreading through our solar system. Demonic life everywhere is being wiped out. And although we have lost our demons quite a while ago, the imprint of them is being cleared. The impressions, the ghosts of demons, the psychic impressions of their ill intent, all of that is disappearing in the yellow light. And the yellow light means that humanity is very much accessing third level resurrection. If you recall, the yellow light birthed during the third level resurrection. And now how did it birth? By the Lord's releasing it like money out of a bank. That's why they have waited so long to catch up with our fluid evolution. They will be given a new task. One of the things that this has done, which is major, actually there are two major consequences. The first one is that the principle of decay As analyzed by the ancient Toltecs, they said it originated in our sun, and that it is that which decays unless you continually feed something energy. It disintegrates and eventually dies. Cycles of death and life come from entropy, and entropy is the result of the friction between the two opposites of the angels and the lords, the measure and movement of light, of information, of flow. They push against each other and they leak energy, which is why entropy takes place. It's the root cause of entropy. Now we have a chance at evolving self-regeneration. This is the name of the permanent transience of life, evolving self-regeneration. Now there is the second very important thing that is a result of this, and that is that life is now going to be dictated by the highest common denominator and not the lowest. The Lords held principles of realities that had become obsolete in the way they were seen and in the way they were expressing. By releasing these old viewpoints, humanity is going to look at life new and fresh. And so we are looking at a whole different, lighter feel. And this is very necessary because many shortages were looming ahead, some possible wars were looming ahead. We can rise above it because now life is dictated, the level of life expressing by the highest perception, which is you, and not the lowest, which is the old stagnant programs. Pertaining to yourself, let go the programmed belief systems. Watch where your actions come from, if it's taught or authentic, and you will stop the friction within of programs and spontaneity and the loss of energy that brings old age. Happy New Year, my beloved ones.
Welcome back to studio. You're listening to Radio Belvaspada, South Africa's January the 19th of 2017's broadcast and episode entitled Angels, Lords, Hope and the Future. And there we were listening to the mystic and seer Almeen's New Year address as she discussed a lot of those processes, and how magnificent that it's not just an address but an absolute beautiful class all by itself. That is available online if you wish to listen to it, but remember that this show is broadcast and then put out as a podcast, so it is always available for listening after the broadcast date. Absolutely incredible to know that we started the show off with that message that says the past, like a series of ghostly images, is being swallowed by the moment. The future, like waters, swirls around us, waiting to be shaped and reshaped by the moments in between. Almeen was talking in there that light is accessed information. She's talking about stopping the friction within. Very, very interesting process there. So I'm just commenting that, this is some of the discussion that we all had between ourselves last year, that if you are finding your value systems changing, then just let them go. As your principles are now moving into a higher reality, and as the Lords of Light also let go of their principles and evolve into higher awareness, so too do we. This year, the 2017, the cosmic year, coming up from January the 28th into February and moving up into January next year, is about living in high magic, practicing and working within the 384 principles that are being brought through for all of us. I just wanted to share that towards the end of last year, I had a very, very interesting experience in just re-listening to Almeen's New Year's address right now. I had a very strong realization. I'd like to share that with you, because there were 2 or 3 weeks where I was coming out of sleep time, and it must have been just before I woke up early morning for quite a few weeks at one point, where I was dreaming and seeing what was curvy bending lines, and I felt that these were new sigils that were being created. So for our listeners that are not au fait with some of Almeen's teachings or what sigils are all about, please go into Almeen Diary. Go and look at some of the experience of Almeen and sigils. You can find about it on YouTube, or please just connect with us and we'll send you some information about that. But I know that the majority of our listeners are also, followers of Almeen, so you'll know what we're talking about when I mention the aspects or the discussion about sigils. But what I was doing, I was feeling incredibly pulled into traveling up these sigils, but something was holding me back. I didn't feel the time was right. I knew it had to do with time travel, and I was saying to some of our fellow group members here that I was feeling that this is how Almeen had actually traveled into time. And this discussion that she's just shared with us, this New Year's address, is actually confirming my experiences, that those sigils and lines of light was new light that was being formed. So now I can quite happily travel up them in my own way, in my own meditations, my own journeying, and find out and discover for myself, because obviously they have now been laid out, and the cosmic time maps will begin to represent all of those particular aspects. Of course, for me, these sigils and these lines which are now being drawn are really an aspect of traveling through various realities and then merging into the future, which is literally saying is that we are taking those realities into the future, which is why there's so much discussion about the processes of developing one's awareness, of creating the purity of being, the purity of self. And I see in a lot of the social media and Facebook pages how many of Almeen students are all on this incredible path of clarification, of clarity, of creating cleanliness within themselves, and just letting their minds be open and free to whatever is developing and taking the next step. So very exciting for me to think that the past is gone, but it has created our present, but it's time to let it all go, because the principles of the new world that awaits us simply are in a completely different and higher reality than we've ever known before. In March of 2016, the Seer Almeen felt that it had become vitally important to replace the despair that light workers felt at the deterioration of moral values globally with comfort. She undertook to enter a week of solitude in the latter part of August 2016 to travel into the far distant future and observe just how well humanity would succeed at evolving beyond the present suffering and hopelessness. The following messages from the future have been brought back by this year to bring insights and hope for our time. But before we go into those particular messages from the future, let's just take a few moments to remember what Radio Belvaspa is all about. And our work is really looking at the teachings and healing modality called Belvaspa, brought through by the Seer Almeen in 2006-2007. And we just like to remind you of that right now.
Team Belvaspa Healing South Africa facilitates one-on-one, group or distant healings utilizing a cutting-edge angelic healing modality that harmonizes and balances using a combined process of light and frequency. This cosmic healing modality has various protocols available that will assist in the transformation, transmutation and transfiguration of many areas of life. Visit our website on www.belvaspa.co.za for complete information, and also link to us on Facebook under our name, Team Belvaspa Healing South Africa. You may also send an email to belvaspa@anua.co.za. You can join our WhatsApp discussion group for daily posts and trending information and updates from Almeen, the Seer and Mystic. Message us via either Facebook, email, or on the station's commentary section. We will now return to the online chat show, hosted by Team Belvaspatar South Africa and our guests for the day.
And to continue, we're going to be discussing the following messages that Al-Amin brought back from the future, and they're going to hopefully bring us some insights and hope for this time frame at this moment. So the first aspect, Al-Amin is talking about that in the year 2015, a concerted effort began by the American government to prepare for the colonization of Mars. They'd already sent astronauts to the Red Planet, even before the moon landing was staged. They made several discoveries that prompted the decision to colonize. Man could grow used to the thin atmosphere on Mars, and there were certain rocks that gave off oxygen. They did find areas of surface water, and a very prolific and well-established colony of evolved and non-hostile humans that had immigrated there during Atlantean times and lived underground. The moon, on the other hand, had multiple alien bases that did not welcome humans. So please refer to some of our last episodes during the course of 2016, and of course go into Al-Amin Diary to look up those dates, and there are links to the aliens leaving the moon. Here again, we're in territory that is incredible to actually begin to understand and work on. And if you think that this is all science fiction, then go into some depth and study with the Seer Al-Amin, and go and do some research as to what she's offering, and it becomes more and more credulous as you're going along. Absolutely fascinating that the changes and shifts cosmically that are going on are all around you, me, and the cosmos, all wrapped up inside the moment by moment changes within the infinite. So the very important reason that they've been telling us of this as a warning is not to colonize Mars. Their history, which they hope to change, shows a large-scale colonization of Mars in the year 2200 AD, which is 184 years from now. They say that the colony grows over 60 years and that a planetary axis tilt then wipes out millions of people. The entire Mars colony that came from Earth. The scale of this catastrophe rivals the major Earth disasters we have had in the past. They reveal our past and future as going through specific stages of leadership. In the past, we were governed by kings and dictators, then by warriors and conquerors, and now, in our current stage, obviously by bankers and the financiers. They refer to our age as the dark ages of abandoned children, a time of struggle to achieve the unity within diversity of globalization. They say that the young, needing to emulate role models, turn to sports heroes and athletes. The next stages of government will be the age of scientists, beginning in the year 2500 AD, and then the age of philosophers and artists, which is the time period from where the Seer Al-Amin gathered this particular information. Just a reminder that our last show of the year last year was where we played the Master Nico's song Straatkind, which translated into English language literally means street child. And a lot of it is about the emotion of abandoned children and working with abandoned children step by step. And he was just seeing so many of those in the street that they had touched him and worked with him. And of course, we've been working with the abandonment of the inner child through this whole process as we take on responsibilities which perhaps aren't ours to take on. But again, we are now learning this year to focus on living in the principles of high magic. So expecting lots of change. Absolutely incredible, the insights that go on. Please do the relevant study accordingly. All the material is available online. And of course, there's upcoming Al-Amin webinars, etc., and all of these new structures and processes that are coming into place. So back to the information that the Seer Al-Amin brought for us. She's saying that during the age that the top scientists rule, world globalization is achieved and the earth is cleaned up of radiation and pollution. They travel not in cars, but in what is termed anti-gravity vehicles, which is based on the knowledge that opposite energy and matter repel. a common global language develops that resembles a melding of English and Scandinavian. The most important, heartening and miraculous message brought back from the future is that in the year 3382, the night of light take place. This is a quickening that ripples around the earth as an instant enlightenment. Additional cognitive capacities become available to man as he changes from Homo sapiens to the new species which the seer calls the new man, Homo admirabilis. During this quickening, many perish from the bliss that is experienced, but the earth enters an era of peace and prosperity for all. And literally what the Seer Al-Min is hearkening to there is that all previous programming belief systems will have been completely wiped out through that particular point, and mankind then achieves the highest state of being complete new form of man. So what we're going to listen to now is a class that the Seer Al-Min gave at the end of a silent retreat last year, where she talks about why Mars colonization is doomed. And we'll see you on the other side of this short class.
We said that looking back from the future, one of the largest catastrophes to humanity is not on Earth. The largest catastrophe is the colonization of Mars. So, first of all, we assumed at the time, until recently, when one of the angel gods informed us differently, that all 100% of the population would, in fact, be voluntary. Apparently only 50% of those colonizing Mars would do so voluntarily. But what we did on ourselves to prevent this is to find where we are always reaching for something across the horizon. Why would somebody want to go to a barren-looking planet and leave the beauty of the earth? Because they think the grass is always greener on the other side, that it's always better somewhere else. And we wanted to look through our life and see exactly where is it that we're not satisfied with what we are, or what we have, or where we live. Whether we live in a tiny little apartment or a big house, it doesn't matter. It's there for us to turn into heaven, to make elegance and grace and holiness and beauty, something worthy of a God being. It doesn't matter if it's a hut. Nature is supremely elegant. So we looked to see where this discontent within us might be, so that we can prevent that. The other thing that we looked at is that many of those people, and this is something that already has been underway for quite a few years, the planning of it, but that many of those people looked for a shelter from the madness of the world, a shelter from heavy taxes, a shelter from having to work day in and day out. We looked at each of those three things, saw how we could actually heal them on earth by healing things in ourselves, and then we also looked at where do we have shelters. I looked, for instance, at the fact that I wanted the shelter of education for my daughter. And I might still want education for her, but the fact that I think it shelters her from a lot of debts, from a lot of struggle financially, if she has the education, that is the part that was flawed, that I had to work on, is my motive. Whenever we have a shelter, life comes in and batters down its walls. It doesn't permit shelters. Many would go to Mars because they want shelter. So we examined our lives to find where do we have these shelters?
And you're back in studio. I'm your host for today's show. My name is Paul. I'm sitting with Nico, who's handling our sound desk. A reminder that if our sound is a little bit different tonight and a little bit jumpy here and there, it's because we are working from a laptop. We got the blessing of being struck by a huge lightning bolt on the 20th of December, and it has burnt out a lot of our building in terms of its equipment. A lot of lights, our security systems have all been affected, and we are busy replacing all of those. But again, incredible to think that we are getting new programming, new systems in, new ways of living through a lightning bolt. And virtually the same time last year, we got struck as well with very similar processes going on. So the insights beyond all of that have been quite exciting. Very interesting to look at it in the terms of really what we are going through and experiences there as we have to work on creating something new. And believe me, it's a lot of work trying to sort it out with the insurance and all of those things that go on. But that's one of the lessons that I've been learning myself, is that you can manifest something very quickly in terms of a thought or a feeling about it, or just a knowingness that this is the right step to go, but it is not a straight line to get there. It is like those sigils and those curved lines that I was speaking about. We have a time map to follow, so we are going to go left, we are going to go right, we are going to go up, down, inside and outside, whilst we get to that particular process. But the knowingness that all of these things will come together and trusting that they are all happening is of paramount importance. Remember that light is access knowledge, and our job is to learn how to hold more and more light by accessing more and more knowledge within the self and allowing that moment of genius to be present within us at all times. The Seer Almin's been speaking about that we are powerful as individuals in affecting the future. We are the sacred government through self-government. We change the world by changing ourselves. The changes in attitude that will prevent a Mars catastrophe are: A, stop our romanticized notions of aliens and alien planets. Grow beyond thinking of them as our saviors and being more enlightened than us. And B, stop thinking the grass is greener on the other side. This is our home and its future is glorious. Let's bloom where we're planted. That also applies to our individual living conditions. It is up to us to create heaven on earth in our homes, whatever, wherever, and however they may be. Really, absolutely beautiful advice and guidance there. And I know Nick and I, despite the lightning and all those processes, we are now dining by candlelight a lot of the time. We have very dim lights around the place. And we just consider ourselves completely fortunate to be able to broadcast this still from our building. But also it would be just as beautiful to broadcast from another area. And we are learning that we have set up so we don't need the studio if we don't need it. And we're not going to rely on any of these processes, but just be able to broadcast and do what we need to do as we're going along. So a question was posed on Almin Diary to Almin, and the question was: a few of my friends and I are detoxing spontaneously. What is the explanation? And Almin answers, she says, we are cleaning up the Pacific Ocean, dearest. And then in brackets, for additional details, see Almin's message of January the 5th, 2017, how you can prevent the death of the Pacific Ocean. And that's an Almin Diary. You are by proxy cleaning the fluids in your body. I know we certainly started our new year here after a wonderful holiday away in Mozambique, literally in aches and pains, absolute tiredness and exhaustion, and then also having to look at how we enter the new year in newness and making change as we're going along, knowing that we cannot redo what we did last year. Not that there was anything wrong with it, because we learned so many things every single day, but that we now are living in higher consciousness and awareness. Isn't that absolutely incredible just to know all about that? So we're talking a little bit about Mozambique. 2 years ago, we also made a trip up into Mozambique. So for those perhaps away from South Africa won't really know, not be aware of it. It's possible that you are not. Mozambique is up on the east coast, up into the Indian Ocean. Absolutely incredible country where you can holiday between bush and the ocean, and it is just magnificent, wildest forms of travel, but truly a beautiful experience, and you are so one with the earth as you're going along. But 2 years ago, as we were driving back from Mozambique, coming back into Johannesburg, we had about a 400-mile, 700-kilometer journey to make. And what had happened is that for the first time in probably 2 years, that had rainfall the night before as we were leaving, and we were driving down the road only to watch that on the sides of the road there were channels of water left behind, very small channels of water. And the local people in the villages, as we passed, had taken their clothes and were washing their clothes in the side water, perhaps in just a gallon of water, what was left. But they were doing so joyously and so happily, celebrating the arrival of water. And so this year, when we came out again, there was plenty of rain, plenty of storms, plenty of heat, plenty of everything going on there in Mozambique. And this week, we are seeing that in those areas that we were there 2 years ago and even this year, there are now complete floods. It is as if there are so many processes where drought has now been broken, but of course it's gone to excessive experiences. And this is part of what we'd like to talk a little bit about the drought today. And I'm thinking that, considering Almin's message about the drought in the world and how to break the drought and how to live in gratitude of water and use each liter with absolute gratitude, live there, use it sparingly, but also, enjoy what it is as something that is there for us to use. I know here within South Africa, we've been under severe drought restrictions, and even though our main dams are only half full, they are still filling up, and we are looking forward to more rain as we're going along. But Mozambique in places is mostly wiped out in certain areas. I know a lot of South Africa has been, although there are certain areas in South Africa that are still in drought situations where they've had no water at all. And so we continue just to allow that to fall and to work with. But I'm thinking about this aspect where Almin talks how we can prevent the death of the Pacific Ocean, and that we are proxy cleaning the fluids in our body. And I'm linking it up to the question of the drought and what it is that we have to do. And I'm just thinking that the Pacific Ocean is such a huge body of water, and linking it up to the New Year's address where Almin is talking about, emotions flowing and working through all of that. So we'll listen to another audio clip in a few moments by Almin as she explains all of that. But I was fascinated to take this a class or a short audio clip by Almin last year where she was talking about a crack in the face of time, and that was August of September. And that has stuck with me for quite a while until this week I saw pictures and photographs of a place here in South Africa that has been drought-stricken, and it is red earth. And what has happened now, as the rain has come through that area, there's these cracks in the earth have been showing, and that crack is running by the second, bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's these huge fissures and really just massive amounts of sinkholes appearing as they're going along, and it stops in front of a road. And I'm just looking at the signs and signals in my environment around there, and I'm going, yep, this road is going to go as well, or it's not going to go. We have to look at all of that. But I'm looking within the cracks of that red earth. I'm looking at the water there, and just understanding what Almin was talking there about the red and the blue light, and about water and emotion, which she'll speak about in a few minutes. But emotions are definitely cracking the surface, and water is flowing through it. And for me, that is a cleansing process that is linked to the largest body of water, and of course our own body, made up mostly of water itself. And so we are seeing all of those particular processes are going. We are the ones that are doing everything by proxy through the healing cosmically and standing firm on our earth. Let's listen to Almin now as she talks about how to prevent the birth of a tyrant, and that we are withholding the water sources. And this gives us some great insights as to how we've been our own tyrants and creating tyrants within ourselves for so long.
Now, how can we prevent this? She is not born yet. So how can we prevent such an atrocity from being born? It is as follows. Water represents emotion. We often are guilty of withholding emotion from others. And I find in my own life, over the years, that many people expect me only to be benign, loving, friendly, inclusive. They really don't like it when I get emotionally perturbed, etc. And a lot of my emotions are simply branded as cross. Why are you angry? Well, I'm not angry. I feel passionate about this. Well, I am emphasizing something that I want myself to remember. This is an area I wish to change in. Well, I am not going to accept the unacceptable, so I believe I should make a firm statement that requires emotion. All of this is not angry, but anything other than loving is interpreted as, why are you angry? And in addition to that, I value my anger. It is in my control. I make absolutely sure that I don't damage people with it, and I only bring it out as it feels necessary and when it's the right moment. And it's usually to break up old, stagnant patterns. How often do we not want our children to cry, not want someone to feel sad, or lost, or alone, or despair? Honor the emotions of others, because emotions that are unexpressed become distorted emotions. I'd like us just to take a few moments while we play you a music piece or two from Labyrinth of the Moon CD and contemplate this. Which emotions of others do you try to get them not to express, or you try and fix, so that they end up being deprived of the power of releasing certain emotions? You are withholding their water sources.
And that beautiful aspect of just seeing life changing as the rain arrives and as you stand with your hands held out, looking up at the skies above as rain falls down around you, is a moment of sheer gratitude when you've been living in heat wave after heat wave, when there's so much drought that the dam levels are so close to being empty, and disaster once again hopefully averted, but a reminder that it's up to each one of us to use our resources carefully and with gratitude and love, and not take anything for granted. And I think that's something that I learned last year and will continue to apply for myself. Almin says that the highest form of compassion is to surround yourself with those who inspire joy and to interact sparingly with those who do not. Some good advice for us to work with, some great Almin wisdom. Just to share with you before we close off for today's show, that the Almin's rune prediction for the week from January the 16th to January the 22nd, give yourself credit. Rune 8.11, Angel Revenue, and entitled Dissolving the Illusion of the Superiority of Numbers. Almin says, take a moment and give yourself credit for working a journey of mastery in the midst of a destructuring society. Character is built one highest choice after another. It is from the purity of your intent that you fulfill the role of sacred government. So we just like to say thank you for joining us for this radio show. We hope to have provided some insight for you, to have given you some inspiration, and to have allowed yourself to just experience where we're all at, and knowing that we're all walking this journey of ascension, and that it is up to each one of us to take full accountability for ourselves as we understand how to do that by ourselves. Remember that there is a webinar coming up, the Merkaba of Resurrection, that is printed out or published on almindiary.com for you to go and investigate. And this is talking, as Almin says, the grand shift from the third level of resurrection as we emerge into the state of pure white light. Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll be back next week in studio, next week Thursday. For the Americans, we know that you are all experiencing a huge lot of processes and thoughts and feelings through the presidential election, which has now taken place, or the presidential inauguration, I think, which is all taking place. I see lots of different discussion about all of that. Remember that there's perfection in everything, that in each one of us to become our own self-government, and we will shift whatever is necessary to shift in the most perfect of ways. There is nothing to fix, there is nothing to heal, there is only self to discover and enjoy the adventure. This is Paul, your host on today's show of Radio Belvaspatar South Africa, signing out and saying good night. And Nico in studio, thank you for doing a great job with limited equipment tonight in studio, but we've managed to do it. We're going to play out with just one more little bit of Almin wisdom, and then we are going to play some beautiful music for us all, just to have a few moments of silence and quietness as we absorb the contents of today's show. And this is called Dissolving the Human Paradigms by Exquisite Divine Beauty. Vanessa Power in Ireland has created some amazing tracks, and you can find out about her on YouTube. So enjoy, and until next week, love, praise, gratitude and trust are the eternal ascension attitudes and qualities to practice, and may they be all of yours, all of mine, and all of ours. And working from the depth of the infinite being, we say good night.
Almin Wisdom. The only form of persecution to fear is self-persecution. Decisions based on protectiveness persecute the self by denying its ability to manifest a life of unfolding grace and self-sovereign abundance. Protectiveness attracts persecution, whereas the self-sovereign confidence of the highest truth expressed mobilizes the support of the cosmos.
You've been listening to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. Thank you for listening and sharing in our discussion. Should you have any questions with regards to the healing modality of Belvaspata or have any healing needs, please send us an email to info@belvaspata.co.za or add comments to our page on Spreaker.com so we can work on providing a suitable response. We now close this episode with the eternal ascension qualities of love, praise, gratitude and trust, and look forward to sharing again with you next week. Goodbye.